Welcome to the podcast where we talk about all the things that are hidden in the shadows. This is Isaac.
This is Megan.
And keeping with October and stuff like that, Megan has tried to record this episode several times on her own, but after us watching a few movies, you wanted me to come on and talk with you on this instead of just doing it by yourself.
Yes. So to give a little perspective on that. So this episode that you're hearing is over mimic entities and doppelgangers. Mm-hmm. And the first time I recorded it, if you listen to our last episode, Spontaneous Paranormal Conversation, we kind of talked about the audio issues that I had. That episode was really, really good. And I'm actually super disappointed that there was audio issues with it. When I was recording, I literally saw on our digital recorder, like it picking up the mic, it picking up my voice, everything was good. Because I did get a little bit of a warning that like check the audio. And then when I went to upload it to record it, I was so excited because a lot of the information that I talked about in the episode was like channeled information. Normally when I do an episode by myself, I kind of have like a little bit of a script in front of me just so I don't go off on tangents. But that episode, I put the script aside and it was just free flowing. It was probably one of the best episodes that I did. But unfortunately, when I went to upload it, to edit it, it was dead silence. And then I tried, I want to say 3 or 4 times to record by myself, but it wasn't a good flow. It was like very much resisting while I was giving the episode, and I just didn't like it and I wasn't happy with it. And so I recorded the episode, when did I do it? Saturday. And it was okay. Like I was happy with it, more so than the other tries. But me and Isaac had watched 2 separate horror movies last night. And when we came back together to kind of talk about it, when we got, towards the end of the night, he brought up things from his horror movie and I brought up things from my horror movie. And it actually coincided a lot with this episode and things that I brought up in that episode I did by myself. So I was like, you know what? I'm feeling like we need to do it together and kind of bring in those perspectives because yeah, it's weird how it all correlates and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I suggest you try to go through the episode and add my points. Because we've talked about doppelgangers before, right?
Kind of. We've mentioned them here and there. And I think in maybe some of the ghost story episodes. I know I've talked about when my sister experienced the doppelganger incident at Spring Branch. In the Spring Branch episode and in previous like ghost stories and stuff like that.
Would you give them a refresher course?
Okay. So, of course, this happened in the Spring Branch house. 2 stories I have actually happened in the Spring Branch house. So my sister, so just to give a refresher of how the Spring Branch house was laid out. So it kind of had like an east wing, a middle section, and a west wing. Not like it's a mansion or anything like that. It was just a very long trailer. And I don't know, it was set up weird because it was a business prior. So I don't know, everything was a little bit wonky in that place. But on the east side, there was my sister's bedroom, my youngest sister's bedroom, a bathroom, my bedroom, a like storage room or a room we used for storage, and a laundry room. Then you move to the center part of the house and you have like the living room, an office space, the kitchen, and this room we'd call the movie room. And the movie room had absolutely no windows. And I believe before it was a residential trailer, it was used as a newspaper, like a small local newspaper place. And so I'm thinking that movie room essentially was like a, what do they call it? Like a black room or a red room? Like for the photography for newspapers?
Red room.
Red room. There you go. And then when you start going towards the west wing of the trailer, you have my middle sister's bedroom, and then my parents' bedroom, and that's it, right? There wasn't another room. I feel like I keep thinking there's another room, but there's...
If you were to come into the front door of the house, there's a left and a right, right? Mm-hmm. We were on the further end all the way on one end of the trailer on the right side.
Yeah.
And with a bathroom across the hall. And then next to our room, if you come directly out of our room, walk left down the hallway, there's one bedroom that technically you guys use for storage because you didn't need it.
Yeah.
And then you walk down and you go into the living room. Across the living room is the kitchen. You go down further. The first door on the right is the movie room because we put TV in there. You further go down is your sister's rooms, and then your mom is all the way at the end on the opposite side.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So my middle sister, she never really experienced anything paranormal at the house. Like she always got the wonky feeling, but never anything impactful like me and my younger sister. But she was coming out of the movie room or out of her room. I can't remember which one. It's basically asked me something. And she said she had seen me peek out of my bedroom and then kind of smile at her. And I was known, and I'm still known, to like always do jump scares at my siblings and stuff like that. So she thought I was actually going to like prank her or something like that. So she called out. She goes, "Ah ha ha, very funny, Megan." And so she said, I smiled at her, or like more so smirked or grinned, and I started walking from my bedroom to the bathroom. And she said the whole time I was kind of smirking, but I stopped at the threshold of the bathroom, kind of turned a little bit towards her, smiled, and went into the bathroom. And she said she felt an urge like to follow me, like a real strong urge to follow me. And so she called out. She was like, Megan, why aren't you listening to me? Why aren't you listening to me? Hey. And that's when I turned up right behind her. And I was like, hey, what's going on? She goes, oh my God, like, I saw you. And I was like, no, I've been back, on the west side of the house, not on the east side, the west side of the house. So I don't know who you saw, but one thing, because I talked to her recently about it, because she gets like freaked out talking about it. But I talked to her recently about it to have her like recap everything. And she said the weird thing was that I looked 100% Megan, but she said that the doppelganger, essentially, she said that she was wearing a white nightgown. And that's when she clued in, after she was like trying to get her into the bathroom, and I showed up behind her. She had that split second, wait, Megan doesn't wear dresses. And she says I was barefoot. And I mean, at that time, it was even rare for me to wear like a regular dress, let alone a white nightgown. Then at the same house, there is this incident with my mom where she has this 1990s like old school looking glider, right? And she says one day she's going to pass it down to me. Not my style whatsoever, but apparently there's like real significance between her and that chair and me, because she got it when I was a baby and all that stuff. And it has these little pink flowers on it, and it's like green cloth on the back part, but it's like the outline of the glider is wood. And she said at the time at the Spring Branch house, she had it in the living room area. And she said she was rocking, or not she was rocking, she was coming out, and she said she saw somebody rocking. And she goes, Megan, I need you to do this, this, and this, right? And she said she could see me kind of smirking, and she goes, Megan, I'm not joking. Like, what are you doing? Like, pay attention to me. And she said, I just kept rocking and smirking. And she said it wasn't until she grabbed the back of the rocking chair or glider and she pulled it, like kind of pulled it back to go like, hey, that nobody was there.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, so those are two stories. But here's the question, because I always get confused when we talk about mimic entities and we talk about doppelgangers, because for the longest time I always thought doppelgangers were like physical people like you run into that look identical to you. And that's kind of just like what somebody says, but the real like definition of a doppelganger that you see in different cultures that have been around for a long time.
It's a German word.
Yeah, which means double walker. But essentially it's supposedly supposed to be your evil twin, but on the ether.
Dark version of yourself.
A dark version of yourself.
Yeah.
And there's this theory that was floating in one of the forums that I was watching. And this is really out there. Not necessarily I believe in it, but this is just something somebody was saying. And I was like, whoa, okay, what if a soul splits off into two, right? And one is positive, one is negative. One comes with negative lessons and one comes with positive lessons. And each of them has to evolve in order to get to the one soul, right? So basically when you come down into a vessel, one or the other gets put into, one part of the soul gets put into the vessel. That's why you have some people that are inherently evil, and you have some people that are just like, you go around them and they're positive, just positive people. So are the positive people seeing the negative versions of themselves? And can that negative version push you out of your vessel? Like almost like possess you and switch you out? Like, you know how they talk about walk-in souls or whatever it is?
The legend goes, if you run into your doppelganger, right? Your doppelganger, you die from fright or you die from something.
Or it could just be you die. Because they even say, like, if somebody else sees the doppelganger, that whoever they see is going to die. And we know that's false because I'm not dead.
Yeah. But if you run into your doppelganger can take control of your vessel and stuff like that, and then they're in charge.
See? And so that kind of correlates to that thing. That's
a legend that goes. So if you ever see a version of somebody that's copied essentially around, warn the person that, hey, some version of yourself's around so you don't run into yourself.
But here's a weird thing. So you know that mirror game that they play where you talk to yourself in the mirror and you're supposed to see like an evil version of yourself? Are you summoning through a portal your dark side of yourself?
That reminds me of a dream.
Uh-oh.
That I talked about, almost 2 years ago now on the podcast. But I talked about when I was a kid. I think it had to be 12 or 13. I had a dream, and I remember this dream very in detail. And it's been 37 now, so it's a long time. But some dreams burn into your memory, and you never forget them. But this dream particularly, I was in the bathroom that I was at my trailer that I grew up in. I'm at the bathroom that I always, every morning, get ready for school. And I was looking in the mirror. And they always say, never look in the mirror while you're in dreams. But when I was looking in this mirror, I saw a version of myself, but it wasn't me. This version of myself looked like me, but his skin was black, like oil black. His hair was spiked, but not like, because I always spiked my hair, but his hair wasn't spiked like with hair, it's spiked like with horns. His eyes were black, his teeth were black. Everything about him was just like a shadow of myself, staring right back at me and moving as I moved in the mirror. Yeah.
Weird. Yeah, I've never actually seen myself, but other people have seen me. And in the Spring Branch house too, my sisters would say like they would hear me.
But the doppelganger essentially goes with the legend of that it never tries to. And here's the main difference I've noticed between mimics and doppelgangers. Doppelgangers, they essentially copy the person how they look. If you run into them, you die. That's the whole legend goes behind them. But the mimic seems to copy someone's voice and try to draw them in.
And I think there's a different... Well, because this is the thing that I was like tossing in my head. And every time I go down the subject of doppelgangers and mimics, it's like I come up with more questions than answers sometimes. Like as many answers as I think I'm trying to solve, more questions get asked. And that's the thing is like, is basically a doppelganger like a physical mimic, or could dark entities physically mimic and you don't know if you're looking at a doppelganger or a physical mimic?
Well, I forget where it was, but there are demons that can mimic people's voices. The most famous one that I ever saw anyway was on Ghost Adventures, where they were investigating Bobby Mackey's, and this is when he had this giant ghost hunt, invited like 100 people in there to investigate with them. And they're like, they divvied up with every member of the Ghost Adventures crew. But they were with Nick, and they heard over the spirit box, "Hey guys, be careful!" And it was Zach's voice, but Zach never said it. And they played it back and showed him. It was like, that sounds like me, but that isn't me.
That is so crazy. And that's the thing, and that's what I talk, because, there's that controversy. Is mimics, are they just like spirits using the energy that's around, that's stored around or whatever? Or is it a malicious thing or even demonic? And I would have to say it has to 100% be something negative, because the number one thing that dark spirits want you to feel is uncomfortability and deceit to trick you. I mean, look at all the things that technically are malicious that try and lure you to a place or try to get you away from the group. You know, jinn, demons. What's another one? Wendigo, right? They try and lure you to a spot to get you away from the group. And if you hear somebody that you love call you, aren't you, of course, going to go follow it because you're like, what the heck? Who is that? And then, two, I think this is where some of the movies that we watched last night actually kind of correlate with this. But the crazy thing is, and this is what I was pondering even when I was doing the episode by myself that I recorded, is I kept asking throughout the episode, I kept asking you guys and like myself as I was recording, how is a spirit, a regular spirit that is just stuck behind, how do they know who to mimic and how to push like the perfect buttons and how to get it to you? They have to be reading your memories. And the only things that could do that is, aside from your theories, well, not theories, but like from what we watched last night. But before that, the only thing I could think of is demons and things that have a lot of power that could do that, because, you know, like exorcisms and possessions, demons will, you know, when they're possessing somebody, will recall personal things of that person. So it shows that they can read memories, which is a telepathic thing.
Why don't you tell them the movies we watched last night?
Okay, so to go into the movies that we watched, because it's so crazy how sometimes even the movies that you watch or song that you hear or something like that has a message for you in it. And me and my sister Gwen, we watched Longlegs, and you watched Nobody Will Save You, right? Isn't that the name?
Yeah, No One Will Save You.
No One Will Save You. So yours was more of an alien type movie. Mine was more of a like serial killer, Satanist, demonic being thing, right? So if you haven't watched any of those movies or don't really care to watch any of those movies, just be ready because we're probably going to spill some spoilers in the next couple of minutes. So if you want to watch them, you haven't watched them, either pause it, go watch them, or go forward because, yeah.
Now, I watched Longlegs earlier because I didn't get to watch it, but I watched it earlier, and I was trying to figure out like how you associate doppelgangers with the idea of what was happening in the Longlegs movie.
Well, it wasn't Longlegs with the doppelganger mimics. It was mainly because of the fact that he was able to stuff negative energy into a ball.
Yeah.
To a sphere. And that was a common thing even in your thing that was freaking me out, because I have I keep like almost like a visual notebook with AI images of things that I see. And I've seen these little spheric like orb ball things. And it freaked me out when Longlegs, that's how he put like essentially the energy that would possess the families. He put it in a silver ball inside of a doll that he would then gift the doll. Yeah. So that's what I was referring Longlegs to. But that also plays, that little spheric ball thing also plays a role in the movie you watched.
So No One Will Save You, essentially an alien film, where a woman who is kind of like a recluse, she lives by herself, and she gets visited by aliens. Now, I know they base this movie on abduction stories that have happened in the past, but a lot of what was happening in the film is based on abduction stories, or at least it played like abduction stories I have heard in the past from other people of how they abducted, how everything looked, how everything sounded, what happened, all that stuff, right? But what's interesting about the film is that there are only 5 words of dialogue the entire film. It's mostly like a silent film. She doesn't say anything. No one says anything to her. Like she great actress on telling her facial expressions, right? Never says anything. But towards the end of the film, you're noticing that these greys are started taking over. the world, essentially. And there's 3 types that she dealt with, like a little child gray and a full adult gray that had like telekinetic abilities. I mean, he literally moved shit, picked stuff up, picked her up literally with his hands. Like just like controlling everything. And then this giant praying mantis version as well. Anyway. But what was interesting is that the doppelganger thing, you're talking about mimics, right? Because there was a part of the film where aliens were taking over people by putting these little tiny creature-looking things with spikes and tendrils that moved like almost like a little, I want to say a ball, almost like an oval flesh thing with tendrils and spikes that kind of moved, and it would go inside the person's throat and then take over their body, right? Like a parasite. There we go. That's what I was thinking about. And it did it to her, and it put her mind in like a dream state where she was talking to her friend who passed away. And that's how she knew it wasn't real. So she reached in her mind in this dream state in her mouth and pulled out the parasite thing, which she did in real life, and she threw it away. And then the alien ship flew above where she was outside, and it beamed a light on the parasite thing. And all of a sudden you see like this human skeletal matter thing start like forming around the parasite thing as she's running away. And she's in the woods, and all of a sudden she turns around and sees an exact copy of herself that stabs her. Now, she was able to kill her copy before I had a chance to kill her. But that means the aliens had an ability to put something inside you, copy your DNA and your memories, and then literally make a copy of yourself. So, when I told you that, you were like, holy crap, and then that goes along with a new theory now, are aliens. Now, a lot of people talk about reptilians copying celebrities and all that conspiracy crap, but essentially with doppelgangers, are they somehow copying your DNA and your memories by entering your mind and then making a version of yourself that would be more compliant with them taking over the world, or work through you as, like, let's say, a spy for them, possibly without you even knowing? So,
well, the thing that freaked me out, is I was going in and out of the room while he was watching this, because Longlegs had already like been over, and I was telling him, hey, you got to watch Longlegs, like, great. And I know it's a horror movie, not every horror movie has like little tidbits, but it was just ironic because I felt really like I've been wanting to watch this movie for a while. And when I walked in to a scene, I freaked out because I don't know if you guys remember, but I had told the story about I was in this meditation and this little gray alien looking thing. We were in like a canyon area. It was pointing down to like this bottomless pit hole and was like going to touch my third eye. And there was a scene where this gray looked identical to what I saw. And when I saw him start putting his finger towards her third eye, and I was like, whoa, what is he doing? Like, what happens after, like, he does that? And Isaac goes, oh, that's how they read the memories. I was like, oh shit. Mm-hmm. Because I was like, because that's the thing that me and other people that I shared the story with that are like kind of like in our inner circle, I was like, I don't understand why they were touching trying to touch my third eye. And when you said they were reading the memories, and that's the thing too, I never understood too, like when it came to abilities and stuff like that. When we were part of Shadow Walker, I had always talked to Mike, and he always mentioned, because technically I would have considered Mike that was on the team as like my mentor teacher for a while. And one of the things that he used to always tell me is I would be able to scan memories. And I was like, I don't know what that means. You know, like, I don't know what that means. Am I going to be able to like see specific things, like a vision of what people, like a specific moment, so I could recall it to the person to know, like, this is what I'm seeing, and it would click and oh my gosh, you know? But I just thought that was so weird that all kind of correlated and yeah. And it freaked me out because I was like, whoa, like that is literally what I saw. And I've never seen that. I didn't even know about the movie, let alone, you know?
So now this scared the shit out of more people, and the possibility that negative grays are copying people to essentially take over people, creating doppelgangers.
So I have a question for you, though. I have a question. It's probably a question that's popping up in people's heads as we're talking about this. Is, do you think in the paranormal that more alien experiences are responsible for paranormal experiences? Like, not like paranormal, like ghosts and spirits. Do you think some of the stuff is more alien stuff interacting with you than it is spirits, ghosts, demons?
Some paranormal experiences people have had go hand in hand with alien abduction stories. Lights flickering, right? Electricity being messed with, levitation, missing time, memories changing, stuff like that. There's a lot of correlations with demonic possession or oppression before we get to possession. Almost are identical. And I know if you remember or not, when I talked in the my alien experience episode, one of the things that I said when I talked to the gray, the negative gray, because I remember how I said in the alien experience episode, when I talked to the positive gray, mind tack, and we're going, what the fuck are you talking about? Go back and listen to my alien experience episode.
Yeah.
When I talked to the negative gray in the ring, and I asked him, what are demons to you? He said, brothers in arms. So that means negative grays and demons are working together. I know that's a weird, odd thing to fucking say, but from my experience dealing with them and demons at the same time, a lot of them, and even if you disregard what I just said about them working together, a lot of the experiences people have had seem to correlate. A lot of people have had nightmares and things about being in hell and seeing alien ships flying. Mm-hmm. There's that famous story where it goes with some guy saying he saw like this alien ship flying and a group of people all like looked like hell, and it would beam down and like suck them up and take them from inside hell, essentially. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Say all of those creatures are in the 4D. You know how I always say that there's a positive 4D and a negative 4D, and it balances. Like, we're on the 3D, we're in the middle, and then it like goes up and it goes down, and it basically mirrors each other, right? So do you think maybe aliens, ghosts, demons, like all of the supernatural, paranormal type stuff is all on the 4D?
Yeah. From our own personal experience. But they have an ability to come here. Mm-hmm. Aliens far more so than ghosts and demons.
Well, did the movie ever talk about portals?
No. They just kind of showed up, the alien entities. The Greys, anyway. But how he messed with electricity in the house, like literally turn all the power off to turn it on at command. He was able to move the objects.
Oh, another really interesting thing to talk about, too, is frequency, how they talk.
Oh, yeah. It looked like... By the way, if you haven't seen the movie, I'd suggest watching it. Because even everything I just said doesn't give away the whole point of the movie, especially at the end. But when they would talk, you see this vibration of like wavelengths on their throat as they spoke. And it didn't sound like, of course, words. It almost sounded like noises. Not like clicking, but...
So, here's the thing. Here's the weird thing. Do we not hear that over the spirit box sometimes when we investigate?
Yes.
So is it that 4D spirits, demons, all of that stuff can't necessarily speak the same language with us because they speak in a different frequency once you're on the 4D?
Yeah, that's why it takes an immense amount of energy for a spirit to be heard in the 3D realm. And that's why we've heard enough ghosts speak in our house and in places we go, and noises. When you hear it off in a distance, it has an echo tonality. It sounds it could be somebody, But if you ever hear a spirit speak to you within the same room or within 3 feet from you, pay attention, right? For those who are going to in the future. But for those who have already had the experience, I want you to try to remember something. And it's really hard remember that experience you had of a spirit saying something to you. It always sounds like they're speaking through an old speaker. It always has a weird electrical tone to it, like they're talking through an old speaker, or talking through like not plastic, but like almost like a screen, or talking through it. And it's never 100% clear, like you would hear someone's voice. Sometimes it is. I'm not saying it never is, but majority of the time, every time I hear spirits, and I think about every time I heard a voice speak, it always sounds like they're talking through an old radio. Like it's not 100% clear. Not like you would hear someone's voice speak with you in the room. Now, most people's memories go, what? It did sound like someone speaking with you. Yeah. It was so short, and most of the time you were scared. But
here's the thing, too. Is it they're actually saying something, or is it your brain registering the frequency and being able to tell yourself what they're saying?
It has to go with the science of sound, right? How we hear it through our eardrums, it reverberates, and then we recognize the sound based on the tonality, based on our memories of certain things. So blah, 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 blah. That's a whole other road to go down. But I always thought about the idea that when they try to talk to us from the 4D realm, it's never 100% clear because they're talking through another dimension. And it takes immense amount of energy to do so. And that's why it doesn't happen all the time. That's why people say, well, I don't see ghosts around all the time. Because granted, they're everywhere and not technically everywhere. There are places where spirits literally hang around. And of course, if someone died in their home, they're going to hang in their house. Or say another place that they felt comfortable with, they'll stay there. And they'll be there. But you won't always see them nor always hear them. Because it takes an immense amount of energy to do so to even be heard. So if something knocks over in your room or you hear someone speak or a lights flicker or something moves, that spirit is really trying to get your attention because it's gathering enough energy to do so. Hence why mimics and doppelgangers are extremely scary. For it to be able to be heard.
And the fact that it has to know exactly who and or what to imitate. And then on top of it, be able to mimic it. Like if physically too, if it's doing it physically. So
you're hearing a voice that sounds clear. And they're hearing knocking. Right? Someone on the door. They're physically knocking on something and being heard. That's a shit ton of energy to do that. So that's why even doppelgangers, how you see them. Granted, doesn't look like a straight copy. There's as our we call it the uncanny valley situation. When you see someone, and most of us have a sixth sense, but say we have a seventh sense, right? To sense someone's soul. And when we see an entity or something like that that doesn't have one, it feels odd, and you're a little taken aback from them.
Yeah.
So that's essentially a doppelganger. So once you see someone that looks like someone I know, but then it's not because you feel wrong about it.
Well, here's the thing, too. What about physical doppelgangers? Like people that are humans, but that look identical to you, but you don't have the same lineage. Because that's happened to me so many times where people 100% thought I was somebody else.
I mean, there's a chance because, think about human DNA and how we all come from one or two people. You want to go by that story about humans, how we evolved, blah, 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 blah. But we share a similar DNA. So there's a chance, not a high chance, but there's a chance that you'll match with somebody else. Granted, sometimes people have literally they look like identical twins and share no bloodline lineage whatsoever. It happens. Not all the time.
Unless you accidentally checked out the wrong vessel in the afterlife. You and somebody else chose the same vessel. Which I wonder how that goes.
Yeah. There's a time that someone thought that someone who looked identical to me. Granted, he was about 4 inches shorter than me and about 100 pounds less. But from the back of his head and shoulders, it looked like me. If you were looking close, it won't work in that close. Granted, I have never met anyone who looks exactly like me. When I was younger, people said I looked like Chino Marino. the vocalist from Deftones.
Oh no, the funniest thing I have ever heard, and I will never forget this, is when you went and we were in Taco Bell because you were playing a show, and I remember it was when you had the long hair. Oh shoot, what was that guy's Dave Navarro.
Oh yeah,
that kid was like, "Oh man, you look like Dave Navarro, dude."
And I was like,
I couldn't
thanks,
stop laughing. Oh my god, it was so freaking funny.
Because I had a goatee back then. I had long hair, so kind of, yeah.
Oh, yeah, but to kind of also go off, like, weird instances like that, I know, granted, this isn't, like, a physical doppelganger situation, but I remember it was, like, I don't know if it's, like, just a glitch in this reality or what, but going along with people saying, like, oh, you know, mistaking you for somebody else because you look identical. I remember there was this guy... back when me and Isaac were looking, we had looked for houses prior, but the only people we dealt with real estate wise were both females. And I still talk to one of them to this day, but I remember there was this guy, he friended me on Facebook, and he's a real estate agent. Like, he wasn't like a scammer or spammer or anything like that. But he goes, "Oh, how are you and Isaac doing?" I was like, "Who is this dude?" And he was like, "Yeah, I helped you guys find a house." And I was like, "No." And he was adamant. He was like, "Yes, you and I," and was giving details about us. And I was like, what in the world? This guy has never, and this guy swears up and down. He says, "I've looked at the pictures. You're Isaac and Megan." And he's like, "I know you had a little, or you have a little one." Didn't say like it was on the way or whatever. Said you have a little one, and you guys, we looked at a couple houses together. So to this day, I don't freaking know. Mm. And apparently, there was somebody when I worked at Walmart, you know, in Jacksonville here. There was literal people that would come in and talk to me. Straight up talk to me like I was this other person. I was like, "I don't know who you are. I'm sorry." And they said, "There's a person that looks identical to you," and even gave me the address of where they work. And I was like, I don't know if I should go check out who this person is, but.
And why do you think so many? Because I always say it's not because it's happening more often, but because we were able to record and share the information more often now than we did, say, 20, 30 years ago. People, like I was going to say, why do you think more mimic cases are happening? People were posting them on TikTok where everybody can see them. But like I said, I don't think they're more happening now. I think they always were, but we weren't able to record them like we do now.
Yeah, and I think, too, there's a lot more avenues that people can go through. Like, just in paranormal podcasts that strictly talk about experiences. Look how many there are. Yeah. I think, too, a lot of the stuff with the paranormal, and I know that's one reason why I go to forums and Facebook pages and Reddit threads and all of that stuff, is because a lot of time people will share what's going on with them, and you can kind of like group people together that are having the same experiences. Essentially, that's what happened with the Hatman entity. It wasn't necessarily that, you know, they've happened for a long time. And, you know, like, I'm sure, you know, everybody that, you know, is sharing their experiences, oh, it happened in the 90s, it happened in the 2000s, like a handful of them. But you didn't hear about it in the 90s or the 2000s. It's because there's a platform where all of the connections are being made to show, like, hey, there's a lot of these. And I do think a lot of two things. Okay, so one point that I want to bring up is one of the things that a lot of other investigators like to put out there is, or people in general in the paranormal like to say, the reason why you have fear behind this stuff is because it's the unknown. And I think that's a load of bullshit, to be honest. To a degree, and I'll explain why. So, yes, the unknown is scary, and I feel like it's more of a physical thing. Like, for instance, or when you first investigate, I could see why it would be nerve-wracking and stuff like that. But if you're a frequent person that has a lot of paranormal experiences, right, and you're getting that fear, that like gut feeling, I'm talking about fight or flight feeling, that fear, not necessarily, well, yeah, I guess anxiety.
Instinctual fear.
Yes. Then it's something dark. I don't think, because I think a lot of the times it gets misconstrued like, oh, it's just the unknown. You know, you're just nervous because of the unknown. There's not that many bad spirits or bad entities out there. And the way I think about it is, you know, I think a lot more places are haunted then people assume. You know, there are places that aren't haunted. Like, we've been to places. Like, there was a cemetery where, like, the spiritual leader said, we're good. You can move on. Yeah. Like, it was kind of funny. Isaac was, you know, like, saying, like, hey, can I help you? Can I pull anything? Nope, you can go ahead and go. We're good. Yeah. Anyone on cross? They might. Like, it was that conversation. Like, yeah, no, we're good. Go ahead. Help somebody else, you know? And so I think some people just don't want to admit the fact that there are dark stuff out there. Now, I don't think every single thing that occurs is dark, because we've been to places where there hasn't been any dark entities as well. But to say that there isn't any on the opposite end, and I think, my personal opinion, anything that mimics kind of falls in that category, because I've never had a pleasant thing with something that mimics, in my opinion.
What coincides with the ability that demons do. So, I mean, you got to think, why would a spirit that wants to communicate, a human spirit, or even a positive one, mimic someone's voice in order to get contact with that person? They wouldn't do it. They would use whatever their natural voice and try to make someone feel as comfortable as possible in order to communicate. Unless you get a frustrated spirit who, like, it really needs to talk to you, so they knocking shit over and are trying to talk to you that way. That happens too, but human spirits don't essentially go with, I'm going to copy that person's voice in order for them to talk to me. And another thing too, I noticed, they're asking to be let in.
Oh, yeah.
Like vampires do. I'm not saying mimics are vampires.
but that plays in with the dark stuff.
Demons and other things, the two old ancient legends about vampires and stuff like that. By the way, I watched Salem's Lot, remake of the miniseries on HBO Max. I suggest it. It's very good. But they go by a lot of old vampire rules. Being asked to be let in, right? You have to, in order for a vampire to enter your home, you have to allow them in. But that goes a lot with demons. Sometimes demons need permission to enter your home, or they find loopholes to get into your house by being carried in, brought in on something, i.e. haunted objects, or the person themselves. So it goes a lot with that idea of ancient evil and that rule of being allowed in. So why would a mimic need to be allowed in? So that's another indication or red flag that mimics are specifically evil.
Have you ever seen the short horror film on YouTube? I think some person did, of the one where the teenager's home alone, and her mom pops up and she goes, "Oh, hey, Mom." And the mom is just like staring. And she goes, "Mom?" And someone calls her on her phone and she looks down and it's her mom.
Yeah.
And her mom's FaceTiming her. And so she hits it and she goes, "Oh, Mom." And the mom goes, "Oh, what's wrong with you? You look like you've seen a ghost." And that thing is up close in her personal space now. And then she looks up at it and it's like solid black eyes or glowing eyes or something like that. And that right there. See, I have chills. Look, you can see I have chills right now just from telling that. I'm going to share it on our stories so people can see it. It's creepy. And that's the instinctual fear that comes with mimics. And like, if it was a regular spirit, why would that happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, my sister, when I reiterated the story to her, she was like, I was terrified when that happened. She goes, because I asked her, because she, you know, like I said, she's not really into the paranormal, but she was like, I don't give a crap what anybody says. That was a demon imitating you. And she was like, because the smirk and the smile and just like, it was just, it copies just enough, but then it leaves an off detail somewhere. And
Funny, I never run into anything like that.
Well, here's the thing. Here's another experience.
Anyway.
Here's another experience I could actually like shortly kind of like say. I remember when we were with one of the teams that we were part of, and we were at the Web Memorial Library, and it was all the females went in one, because we just so happened to have half and half, like the perfect number of guys and the perfect number of females, and we just split it up that way to be easy. And I remember all the females, because that was a lot of the psychics were females, so we went in first and we went right into that room with the scrying mirror. Apparently there were some bad people that were using a mirror to scry, but in a negative way. And I remember we were in that room, and all of a sudden we hear the guys bust through the bottom level, and we were on the second level, and we go running because we're thinking, what the heck happened? And at the time we had a walkie-talkie, and you guys said you heard a woman yell, help, help, help.
I screamed it.
Yeah. And none of us, we were normal. We were just walking through the rooms, but we were in that scrying room that was really, really dark. So,
well, the advice I would give to anyone, granted, before I say that, my hand would be the final judge, essentially, on whether mimics are evil or not by encountering one and feeling the energy with my hand. That would tell me, hey, this thing's evil. But I'm already positive, more than positive, so that it is. But I have never ran into it. And God's forbid that I run into a mimic and it copy my voice to try to lure Killian to a place, because I will have no mercy on that entity.
Yeah.
But no, it's the chances of that happening are very slim to none.
Well, I noticed it goes to very vulnerable people. Like, for instance, people that are home by themselves. People that are looking for the paranormal, like investigators. I know it happened. Well, here's the thing. If you heard it at an investigation, would you follow the noise?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would too.
Well, it's me.
So stay tuned.
To other people, I'll say, no, don't do such a thing. But
yeah, and I wouldn't recommend somebody that's not familiar.
But that's I was saying. That's my advice to those who encounter mimics or doppelgangers. Doppelgangers, avoid, right? Just avoid them, and try to get it out of your house or protect your home. As I always say to everyone who deals with the paranormal. But mimics specifically, if you encounter one, tell it to go away. I know who you are. I don't want you here. And if they still persist, then you're not dealing with a simple mimic. You're dealing with something a lot stronger. And that's when you would call me or someone else who can, push it away or something. Or find some way to protect your house. Because that means that mimic wants something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, that could be the first vulnerability. Because that's the thing that, that saying, the devil wears a suit and tie. Like, it's not necessarily these big, creepy-looking creatures that front themselves for you to trust. I mean, if you see a big, hairy-looking demon creature-looking thing, you're not, or hag-looking thing, you're not gonna, trust it to let it in, essentially. But if you see a woman that looks like an old lady in your dreams, or that looks like somebody you trust, or something like that. I've even had read of instances where something was bothering somebody in the dream, and it was taking on the image of somebody else. So this person felt like, oh, I think it was like an ex or something like that. And so this person was like, oh, it's my ex, and so they were being like flirty and stuff in the dream, and she kept like wanting to dream about that, so she kept calling that dream back. And sure enough, it was something very dark, and she was allowing it to come in because she had that connection already. So beware.
Well, I think that wraps up this episode.
Yep. And before we actually conclude the episode, though, I'm gonna kind of go over our Halloween
a few announcements.
Special, because we have released stuff before, and I think this is a good.
Our announcements for October.
So, to talk about a little bit about our Halloween special, who is going to be our guest for our Halloween special?
I thought you already posted that.
I did, but just in case somebody that listens doesn't go on.
My dear sister, Julie.
Yeah, Julie. So she's going to be coming. She's been on an episode with us here before. And she's on lives too with us sometimes. Well, with you. I should say with you. I don't go on lives, and I don't do guest interviews sometimes. So.
Tisk, my love. Tisk,
I know.
Tisk.
Hopefully soon I'll start doing them. But our next podcast takeover episode, which should be soon, is going to be with me and somebody else. So.
Yeah.
But
Julie's the only other person that we've met besides me and you who have a distinctive ability to take down dark entities at the level that me and you do so. So now there's 3 of us in the world who's capable of doing things like that. So that's how we made our connection, and through our time discussing, we figure out that me and Julie were siblings in multiple past lives, hence why I call her my sister. She's not biologically my sister. She is, in a funny way, my soul sister.
Yeah. And we're going out of our comfort zone this year. I know we always kind of go back to our same places, but we're going outside of our comfort zone, and we are traveling a little bit to a lake that doesn't have a lot like on the internet about it being super haunted and stuff like that, but there is some history. There's a lot of Native American ties. There is some alien stuff as well in the surrounding areas. Obviously a lot of stuff with like Civil War and Revolutionary War and all those different time periods.
Well, in this state.
Yeah. And so Isaac actually saw the lake in a vision, though. We were kind of trying to find a new spot that, you know, wasn't super far away or didn't charge an arm and a leg to investigate it and things like that. And we wanted something different and a place that nobody has talked about, because I feel like a lot of the places in North Carolina are kind of like not dragged through the mud. That's not the right terminology, but like it is so commonly investigated, like the Battleship. That's probably the most.
Everyone goes there.
Yeah, and it's like $1,000. So for a big team, that's feasible, but for me and Isaac and Julie, that's not.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of already know what's there, and I don't know. It doesn't pull me to go there. I feel like that's somebody else's, you know.
Plus, we've been there with our abilities, and not a lot going on.
No, it's more like I felt like stuff from the people that served on there.
Yeah.
And maybe like some stuff from like downtown area creeped onto the Battleship, but like not anything where I'm like, whoa, this place. I do think like a lot of communication and stuff like that happens on the Battleship, but not anything that I would deem like this is where I want to go. So we were kind of like just exploring spots, going on the map, kind of looking around, because I'm on a hunt for this abandoned house in the woods that I keep seeing, and I don't know where it's at, but I'm on the hunt for it. But that's when Isaac had a vision of this lake. And he told me, I was like, I don't know. And so he started looking on the map and bam, found it. And it's an actual lake. And he was actually told that there could possibly be a cemetery or like headstones that nobody knows about in that area. Yeah. So we actually rented a camping spot that we are not necessarily camping at, but we're going to spend an extended time at. And it's kind of like a base point.
Yeah, because I don't camp.
No, Isaac is... He's a glamper at the very minimal.
I would accept a cabin.
With electricity or
yes.
without? Yeah, see, because bro's got to have his CPAP machine.
It's not my fault I have sleep apnea.
Gotta
have
my your
thick-ass neck.
Oh, I want that on a t-shirt so bad.
My thick-ass neck.
I have sleep apnea because of my thick-ass neck. And just like a man with like the Bane mask.
Even when I was thin, all right, my neck was big. I had a 17-inch neck for like a medium short body.
Well, like it was actually scary when Isaac would sleep. Like he would stop breathing. No, and then like my grandmother would always say like, "Oh my God," because one time we went to a trip and we stayed in like a hotel room that had like not separate rooms but just, you know, 2 beds in it. And she was like, never again. It's a freaking bear.
Oh, because that store's so loud.
Yeah. Even when we stayed with your mom, people in the house were like, oh my God.
Because I asked you, I was like, how do you sleep next to him? I can hear him through the walls.
Used to it. Normally, though, when I go to sleep, I'm out. It just, ever since I became a mom, like that's when my kind of like spidey senses.
If you're still listening, waiting for more announcements. Another one is that we're starting a Patreon. I know I talked about it in a few episodes before, but this Patreon will be pure entertainment, no information, because we don't feel right about charging people information that we know. So information that we know, we always share freely on the episodes and the podcast. But the Patreon is going to be simply entertainment based, and it's my kind of auditions into the voice acting game, something I want to get into. So I came up with an idea for a series of you're listening to a detective interviewing serial killers or psychopaths who've been put into a mental institution for criminally insane. and you hear him talk to different ones. And granted, I'm doing the voice of the detective, and also doing the voice of all the characters except for one, which it's a female character that Megan's going to have to do.
Yeah. So.
But it will be produced. It will have sound effects. It's basically an audio play. And I think I called it City of Shadows, the series.
And the way we're going to work it is the first episode is going to be available everywhere. Like, you're going to be able to hear it on YouTube. But everything after that is going to be on the Patreon. And the first episode is going to be released Halloween, we said?
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah, roughly around Halloween. All of this stuff is coming out the week of Halloween. It's just kind of what day on that week. Like with our paranormal investigating, we will do lives and stuff the week that Julie's here. But we're going to do like a full-fledged episode. So we won't be live during the actual investigation like we normally do. But simply just for the fact of we're going to do a full actual episode. And it's going to be our first episode on our Hidden in the Shadows Paranormal page. So if you're not following us on YouTube, that would be the time to go subscribe, because that's where it's going to be.
And always time we investigate a new place, a lot of things happen.
Yeah. So we shall see.
And
then
plus,
we have some new stuff, yeah.
And all three of us in one location, I guarantee things are going to happen.
Yeah.
Also, one last thing. The Patreon is $5 because that's the lowest amount of money we can charge. Mm-hmm. I wish I could go lower, but no, $5 is, and then it gives you access to everything. We don't have tiers or anything like that. $5 you pay, instantly you get access to the Patreon.
And there's going to be different series too every so often, depending on how long the series is.
Oh yeah, we have ideas.
Yeah.
Possible season 2, the City of Shadows, and then I have my other idea of listening to me interview my conversations I've had with demons in the past that I have put into the ring, hearing what they've said to me and doing the voices of said demon and myself while inside the ring, and hearing how it sounds like, and from what I hear from the demons and things they've said. So that series is also we're going to try to do as well. I don't know, something like a demonic interview or something like that.
Yeah, and then I also have a series that I'm working on. So everything is written by us. Everything's going to be produced by us. There's no outside people or anything like that. It's all us. And the reason why we're doing that is just simply because it's expensive to travel. And we definitely in 2025, for sure, are going to start venturing out a little bit more, especially in our state and surrounding states and stuff like that, because we want to be taking you guys to like where the dark stuff is and showing you what we do. Because, we go on the podcast and different ones and we talk about it, but we don't really have anything to show you. But real quick, I know this is a long kind of like outro, but I also want to talk about there is going to be an ebook that is free. Speaking of free, is that everything you wanted to say about the Patreon series? Yeah,
for sure, the City of Shadows series will be the first thing available on there.
Yeah.
Which I think will be 6, possibly 7 episodes. I'm trying to keep it in with 6 episodes. But one tidbit I would have to give a clue to anyone to understand the story better, if you have been listening to the podcast since the beginning, it will help you understand the end of the first season. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But going to the ebook now. So, I know if you're a longtime listener, you have heard me talk countless times about starting a sister podcast called Renesis, which basically talks about abilities, because we came to this point where people were actually getting annoyed about us combining the paranormal like conversation topics with abilities, even though that's part of our journey. And I got to a point where like I thought, okay, well, I'll just start a sister podcast that talks strictly about abilities and goes into like spirit guides and all of that stuff. But I kind of got to a point where like abilities is what makes me and Isaac like unique in our perspective of talking about the paranormal. So I decided, heck no, I'm not going to change what is my voice and my truth. And so I was like, I'm going to continue to talk about it on here. But the problem is, you have an hour conversation, and sometimes it's hard to bring in all the points that would be behind spirit guides and the mind forest and backstories and more experiences and stuff like that. So I decided to take on the endeavor. Plus, I've been told that this was kind of going to happen anyways by multiple different people, but I'm going to write I'm going to, it's already being written right now. A free ebook. It's 100% free. Going into everything that me and Isaac know about spiritual abilities, the paranormal, and stuff like that, where you could read it at your own pace. And, you know, if you want to like go back over something, you can. And because it's sometimes hard to explain myself or explain these things over on Instagram, like when you DM me, because sometimes it's such an extensive topic. But this will give like tips and tricks that we've learned on how to meditate, how to, you know, go deeper into meditation, how to evolve, you know, with abilities, anything that we possibly know. We're giving it to you for free in a book. And it's visually kind of like aesthetically pleasing. So it's not just like a traditional book. It's, you know, you can look at it on a Kindle. You can look at it on a laptop. You can look at it on your phone, all of the above. So
look forward to that.
Yeah. So that date, though, I'm not 100% sure. I just know for sure it's going to be done by the end of the year. So I will post more updates, you know, throughout the rest of the year. And there's also going to be some people that are going to share, basically like contributors that are going to share their personal journey, like a little snippet, and their personal viewpoints on different things that I talk about in the book. So you can also see other people's perspective too, you know, people that, you know, we trust and know are doing the right thing, kind of thing. So
look forward to all those things and more as we go through our spooky months, and then for the rest of the year as well. But that wraps us up here. By the time you listen to this, I think we talked about our next episode about Nikola Tesla.
Yep.
And in correlation with aliens. Yeah. How we can see it tied up together. But look forward to that episode in the future and more episodes this month where we are going to go through a lot of scary shit. And then also, of course, a Halloween special at the end of the month.
Yeah. And then, too, one thing we didn't mention for the podcast, because the Halloween special is mainly for the paranormal team, but for the podcast, I'm going to release on Halloween just like a bunch of scary stories surrounding Halloween, encounter stories around Halloween, all of that. So that's where the podcast and then the team stuff will be the actual investigation.
Yes. So a lot of things going on, a lot of things happening. But as always, we'll catch your weirdos in the next one.
Yep.